Welcome back to Matchnik Garage. Today I've decided to drag out my Jeep Wrangler. Now I did a video about this in the past, and it was about maybe 3 years ago. Got it up back on the road. This was a rollover when I bought it, and got it back on the road, put a roll bar in it. You can go back, check that video out. But it's been sitting here for about 2 years now. As soon as I got it back on the road, I realized the rear axle pinion bearings are blown out of it, and it howls driving down the road, and it just reeks of gear lube. So I've got another rear axle for it, but I think I'm going to take it a step further. So let's throw a battery in here, see if it starts up, and we'll talk about it. Now, I've only got so many batteries, so we're going to borrow one. Now, the little critters around here, they like to make a nest out of everything. The inside is full of mouse poop. You know, squirrels and whatnot have been making nests over there under the booster. So hopefully they haven't chewed on any harnesses, and this will still fire up, because for what I've got planned, we still need all of that. I didn't bring any tools with me, so hopefully these clamps will stay on here good enough. Well, let's see what happens. Hello? Nothing's jumped out and started talking yet. Alright. Got gas, be it that it's old. Let's see. Oh, nice. Just need a little fuel pressure back. Oil pressure came up right away. Smells fantastic. All right. Pretty simple, really. It's fuel injection. How bad could it really be to start? I'm gonna let this warm up for a second, and then we'll pull it out of here. Tires go flat a little bit over time. I've been airing them up, well, for 2 years. It's not that they're old, they're just these valve stems. So I'll let this warm up, and we'll pull it over, and we'll talk about it for a little bit and give you the rundown. All right, so here we go. This is a 2000 Jeep Wrangler TJ. You know, as I said, I bought this as a rollover. It had a different hardtop on it, a tan one for the Sahara, green, whatever all that means. That was broke. It was a very light rollover, and from the way I found it when I bought it, the rear axle was completely out of it. It had the actual wheel mounting flange on the axle shaft was broke off. So I had to put the axle back under it with new trailing arms, whatever they are, radius arms, new axle shaft. I did bearings at the end of the axle shafts and brakes throughout and whatever, just to get it driving again. And I think the guy had the differential cover off, and I think some water got in there over time while he had it sitting. But being that it was a very light rollover, like this is the side it was laying on. So you can see there's very little damage, you know, fender flares broke in there, little paint off the windshield there, little ripple in the by the fuel cap, fender flare back there. But other than that, not bad. It did break the hard top, so this is a different one. You know, things like that, nothing major. So it's been very good. I got a few hundred miles on it before I decided the rear end was too bad to continue driving. But to get it to that point, I've already gone through the front axle. It's got brakes, bearings, U-joints, stainless brake lines throughout, new steering box, new radiator, you know, it's got a whole new exhaust. You know, I've replaced the mirror that was broken on this side. That was another casualty. You know, I did those things to get this going because I've had a lot of Jeeps over the years, and I've never been able to make one what I wanted it to be. And what I always wanted was I don't think they make it anymore, but they used to be what's called a Jeep Brute kit. And that would take a TJ Wrangler. I think they do newer Wranglers now, but those aren't real Jeeps. They take a Jeep TJ Wrangler and you basically cut it in half right behind the door, and you get a back of the cab, which turns it into a two-door truck cab, a half top, and then a pickup. I always thought that was the ultimate Jeep, was just to have a two-door short bed pickup. And I always thought that was great, and that's what I planned to do with this. I was going to cut it in half. I picked up a CJ8 Scrambler half hardtop, which I've got in the back, and I was going to put that on here and then make a pickup bed, stretch the frame, the whole works. A ton of work, but that's how I thought it needed to get done, because they don't make those Brute kits anymore for the TJ. So I've been saving this around. Like I said, I've got the hard top from the CJ8 Scrambler, and that would fit on here with some modifications. And then I found this. And what is that, you might ask? Jeep never made a two-door cab vehicle. You're right, they didn't. This is an aircraft tug. This is a 85 or 86, I don't remember, CJ10A. And it's my understanding that the only reason they would be in the US is in a military aircraft tug. So this came with a Nissan diesel engine, a Chrysler 727 transmission, and like a Dana 80 rear axle, real short wheelbase, because the rear axle would have been right here. You can see the outline of the fender right there. And it was just two-wheel drive, and they would have just been only aircraft tugs in the US. Now you go overseas, Australia, things like that, this is a pickup. This is a civilian model pickup. Didn't necessarily have the diesel. I'm not 100% on that one. But I came across one of these not too far. I think it was 3 hours from me. I paid a reasonable amount for it. You know, it's not all rusted out. You know, there's a spot on the door, but the rockers are still there. It's all original. Now, there's no engine, no transmission, no rear axle, as you can see. This is how I bought it and pulled it off the trailer and put it right here, and it's been sitting ever since. So, the plan, you might ask. Well, this has more rust than this. This is already a two-door cab with a steel hardtop, already fits. We're going to use that. I don't love the fenders and the headlight setup and the grille. I'll show you that in a minute. But my plan, just imagine it. This body on this chassis with the coil spring suspension and extended with about a 6-foot bed behind it, just like a Jeep Brute. And we're going to keep the 4.0 engine. This has got the NV3550 5-speed transmission. My goal is to get the body swapped and get it running and driving again. And then we'll worry about stretching the frame, building a bed for it. But there's a catch. This is a CJ. It's got CJ dash, CJ seats, the whole works. The doors are different. We can get into that in the future. I want to use these TJ doors on a CJ. Tell me in the comments, do you think CJ doors fit on a, or TJ doors fit on a CJ? I want to know what you think. A lot of people say no. But I want to get that body on this chassis with the TJ interior. Now, let me bring you in and we'll show you the difference. Get the door open here. Now, this is a pretty standard CJ dash, very simple because, you know, it's an aircraft tug. You know, there's no carpet or anything like that, but there's still a floor. Still all the floor. There's a little bit of rot over there where the A-pillar comes down all the way to the floor, but that's so minimal. Everything is solid. The seats are still there, but I don't really want low backs. I want some creature comforts. Got a wasp nest there at some point. But look at this. It's just clean. You know, back of the cab is clean. So it just makes sense to convert this. But I want some creature comforts to a point. So go over here. I want all of that. Doors, door panels, these seats, center console, all of this. And then we'll have cruise and air conditioning, the works, in that Jeep over there. So it's a bit of work, but I think we can do it. I know the upper cowl is different. I know the pitch of the windshield on the outside is the difference. The inside is the same. The dimensions width-wise are the same. The dimension here is the same. Most things are the same. To get these doors to fit on that, we're going to have to take these strikers and put them on the CJ10. To get the body to fit on there, we're going to have to make body mounts and whatnot. But in theory, everything should fit. Jeeps have been running a 6-cylinder, a straight 6-cylinder, in their Jeeps for many, many years until they started to be fake. So I've never been in love with a TJ body. I've had a lot of CJ7s over the years. I just always wanted the coil spring suspension and, you know, a little bit more modern stuff. And it just makes sense to use this because I put steering box and brake lines, and it's got brakes all the way around. And I think I did a new fuel tank skid plate. It's got a new fuel pump. I've probably put fuel lines in it. I don't even remember at this point. But we got to make this all work. But this is another thing here. I don't love the square headlights. I don't love them in the fenders. I don't love the grille that doesn't have lights. So what I'm thinking, and being that this is CJ based, we'll put CJ7 grille and fenders. The hood is the same. On a TJ frame, TJ interior. We'll stretch the frame, put a 6-foot box behind it. I don't even know how much we got to stretch the frame. We got to put the axle in just the right place to make it look proportionate. You know, there's a lot of these out there that they've converted. You know, this is not a new concept, but they put a CJ10 body on something and they put a pickup bed behind it, or they stretch the frame just a little bit, and it looks out of place. So we're gonna try and do this up right, you know. And down the road we can upgrade engine or transmission, and we could upgrade axles. It just depends. But the key here is let's get it back running and driving before, you know, it gets parked back into trees and my ADHD brain moves on to something else. So that's what I want to do. That's where I'm at with this. Take this, mix it with that. It'll look a lot less like this, a lot more like that, but drive like this and not be parked behind the garage. So follow along. I appreciate you watching, and let's tear this thing up. Make it, you know, what I've always wanted. It's the dream Jeep. We'll see you next one.